before the president came. There was no money to be paid. There was no tewaliwo nnyo kintu naye nga nze I surpassed my way nengwa ku stage nentandika awo mpola. Then the next campaign gye yaddamu ne batandika okubanga abakirecognize nga nti maybe president wabatanajja wasana okubeerawo ku entertainment to keep the people going and stuff. So because of the experience eyokukola several campaigns, I now know what to do 2 years before any campaign. Era bwetegereza abantu bangi bali babuzeebuzo lwaki Bebe akola wati, why has he done this, why is he doing this 2 years before the campaign. The campaigns are the biggest activity in any country, depending on the years that are put by that country. For us it's 5 years, it's a 5-year term. But the biggest, why do I say it's the biggest activity? It's because it holds the biggest budget in 5 years. One activity that holds the biggest budget in any country is usually the election or the presidential campaign season. So it's usually a 3-month thing for Uganda, official 3 months, but of course preps and 3 months before. So those 6 months hold the highest amount of money transfers or budgets. Preps is a budget, see money crossing hands. Katingomgezi, or just like any clever person, you must always anticipate that period. Because us as Ugandans, we need to start learning how to make money, how to think money. You need to know how these things work. These things are not by luck. They don't just fall in place just like that. How dare a campaign 3 months start? How does it arrive without you having anticipated where and how to benefit? How is it possible that people don't know the one activity that really involves a lot of expenditures, be it on the incumbent side, be it on the opposition side? Everyone uses money. Fuel, hotels, cars, printing companies, radios, TVs, now social media. Everyone at that time is fully engaged in exchange of finances for services. So the layman as a Ugandan, where do you tap in there? You just want to stay as a onlooker, or do you also want to be part of it? So me, I anticipated using the previous 4 times. I anticipated and decided to have always a plan 2 years prior to the campaigns. So I start on that plan. One, as a musician, I make sure that I'm ready among the top most important artists. As a musician, I make sure that I'm among the top 3 most important, but also I make sure that I am the most important when it comes to the 3 months. How does that happen? The previous 1 year and 7 months determines whether the politics requires you or it takes you as the most important artist in that 3 months. So meaning you have to put it here, no color calculations, no teleka hit songs zo, no wandika no manya nti wanaba wabulayo emyezi 3 akalulu katandike nina okuba nga ntadde hit eyakabi. That is for artists who do politics, who don't fear these issues. I will lose fans, this and that. No, for artists who are serious money makers, serious business people. Because for us, for every Ugandan must learn to make money in any angle. If you're a doctor, it doesn't mean that you only get paid in hospital or when someone is sick. No, you should get also paid in other, sectors. You can be paid from a market because you have a small shop somewhere. You have someone who works there. You can be paid. You can do a song. It goes on YouTube. So you have to anticipate. So even musicians or entertainers must be sharp. I'm going to give you very, very clear examples of how many artists benefited from this previous economy, the 3 months economy. People built houses, people completed houses. I saw one of my friends, my new close friends is Gravity Omutuju. I saw he's about to complete his house, and I saw people waving at him so much. His house is very expensive. He wouldn't have just used music to complete it. You can build a house, but finishing it is another story altogether. But now, the guy could make some good money that you cannot easily make in normal music. You can't make 1 billion shillings in normal music just like that. You need so many years to put up those gigs of 3, 4 million, 5 million. First of all, our artists are still earning 2 million, 1.5, 3. When will you ever make 1 billion shillings? I mean, the real celebrity houses that we're talking about cost more than just 500-800 million. You need over 1 billion shillings. When are you ever going to do that? And 1 billion shillings, imagine, is just $250,000. $250,000. That's a very cheap house for a celebrity. You shouldn't even call yourself a celebrity if you live in a house of less than $1 million. Our people here in Uganda, they keep praising and raising artists from West Africa, artists from the US, artists from Europe. They have a reason why they do that. They do that because the actual truth is a real artist has a lifestyle that is only supported by finances, money. You live in a big house, you drive big cars, you live large. You're famous, you're big, you're popular beyond your borders. So when I'm talking about an artist needing to involve themselves in different businesses, be it needing to involve themselves in even in politics, let this be a lesson, the last lesson. Those who did not do, you missed an opportunity of making money. We have a very good president who gives an opportunity to everyone who thinks quickly to make money. You only a fool in Uganda if you're broke. No msiro Uganda alia because opportunities ezokola sent nyingi. So imagine Ugandans are very good people. 6 months later, no one will remember that we even did politics. We even did campaigns. No one will remember. You imagine after the campaigns, you just bring out a very good song. You think people are going to be there to remember that you did any rally from 70 or for Chagulai? They won't remember. Then they will just go on dancing to the new song. That's it. So if you had good music and you did not do the rallies, let me give you news. The least artists to be paid, yet first and foremost, I want to thank all the artists who were part of the campaigns. Thank you very, very, very much for the work you did, for entertaining Ugandans, for working and supporting the president. But the least artist officially who has a signature, because for me, the artists I stood in for, or that I took for the campaigns, were specific artists. One, artists who are designated politically. Okay, these are the guys who have been supportive of the NRM party, guys who have sacrificed their careers during those times. You know, there was a time when if you came out publicly and said you support a specific party, you lost a specific, audience. Of course, I am the best example. If you came up and said you support the NRM, you lost fans, you lost business. I want to give you a demography, a quick one, about how Uganda is set up. Uganda is set up in such a way that the capital city, Buganda, are where the people concentrate most business-wise. And this is where the opposition of Uganda is centered. Basically 70% of Uganda's opposition is in the center, which is around the capital. Which is around the capital. Which is around the capital. Business as music is people fans. When you come out and you say you're NRM, yet the people within you are opposition, then you lose. You lose fans. Yeah? So some of us lost that fan base within the center. But because a person like me had a vision, I had a clear vision, I had a clear what's good for the country, I did not side with the fans. I sided with the truth. The truth hurts. The truth hurts. The truth hurts. About the artists, most people, I didn't blame the people when the conversation started, because of course many people were ignorant about why and exactly what I was doing. I was indirectly fighting to see that the budget was good for people. The best example is when we started that in Kololo, I was given the job to do the campaign, the Kololo. I was given a list of artists. And when I was given the list of artists, I noticed that we didn't have regional artists on. So I said, no. The president will not launch the campaign, his campaign, with only Kampala artists. So I managed to convince the secretariat, and they were very happy to include. We called it an inclusion. Keep trying. No, keep trying. So I included them, and for the first time ever, I don't know whether it has happened, but at least all those artists were paid not less than 3 million shillings. Not less, apart from a traditional group. Actually, even traditional groups, because remember there are many. And the maximum payment for an artist from Gulu was 7 million shillings, which I don't think any other person has paid an artist from a regional artist, apart from the ones who have broken big like Reggie and stuff. But I'm talking about our usual regional artists who don't have big songs. I paid them 7 million, 5 million for one gig in Kololo. I have all that evidence. Now, by doing that, I was giving them a cue, as cueing them to create a mistrust between the artists, some artists, not all, some artists from the northern part of Uganda, who went ahead to the Secretary General and complained, and then the Secretary General went ahead and sided with them and created the issue of Eddie Kenzo's regional proposal that let those artists perform in their regions. I only felt sorry because I definitely knew what was going to happen. And indeed it happened. I felt bad. So for me, what I did is I waited. I addressed this. I made a different plan. Of course, I had plans. When it comes to these things, guys, you have to learn. Experience is the best teacher. I did the campaigns of Tubonga Nawe for 2.5 weeks, and we were stopped during the COVID time. But the plan that I used this time of media and music was exactly what I had applied that time. But that time, when I was stopped, the people who created me Bukokola and created the idea of Bukokola, they had the power. The power was the money. They are the ones who are funding me. So the president lost on a program that would have done, I'm very sure, 100 or 200%, that if I had proceeded. You all remember that campaign when I was doing the t-shirt let me clearly explain to you what was going on. You saw the t-shirt because the t-shirt giving is what I wanted to show you. Mwalaba t-shirt kwanza nali njaga kubalaga kugaba t-shirt. Na ye kyaliwo kyali kirala nnyo ngenda kibagamba kati. Nali nkimanyi nti no Bobi ne Lukwago ne banne bali bakozesa ba ghetto kids okola efujjo mu Kampala mu Uganda mu Kalulu noku intimidating aba fans. Mwina okutandika, you have to start learning. Mwina okutandika okuyiga. Wait. The person was screaming like a woman. Imagine. I thought someone had been shot in my compound. Guys, this is shocking. A man was crying like a woman after seeing a big dog. Anyway, so let me give you a clear picture of that Tubonga Nawe campaign. What exactly Bebe Cool was intending at that time. I came up with, you know our history with Bobi Wine as an artist, and you know our history with Chameleon, but you all know that I always was the guy with the plans musically amongst the three. And then, of course, even during that time when Chameleon was alone as Leon Island and Bebe Cool was with Bobi Wine, the Black Boys in the Firebase crew. So all those plans came from this head here. Even when I went to Nairobi, the plans of the East African Bashment crew came from me. So I definitely knew Kyagulanyi, and no one knows Kyagulanyi like I do when it comes to these games of public. Because definitely he's learning how to deal with fans and people is something that came from our times. The times, of course, Kyagulanyi, I started singing before him. I was singing with Eddie Awe. He was a very young man, but he liked singing and he joined, and Eddie asked me, we worked together. Eddie Awe is a very good guy. So there was no way I wasn't going to work with the brother. I grew up, I was more closer to the likes of Eddie Awe and Nyanzi. Okay, so by going to Nairobi, I went to Nairobi after that session. Okay, so you can imagine the mastermind of so many things. So definitely I know if I look at Jose Chameleon in a place, I can tell what he's going to do in a second before he does it. If I look at Bobi saying something, I can know what he's going to say next. I can tell how he's going to turn. I know my brothers. I know them left, right, and center. So it was easy for me to come up with a plan. So when I came up with this plan, I knew that I had to use two fronts. One front, I have to give the enemies or the people who are opposing me, I have to give them a different face. The face that gives them satisfaction. So I had to show them that I'm a fool, because they'd be very happy when they see Bebe Cool is a fool. He's giving t-shirts, he's useless. That is the first face. But the face behind that campaign of giving t-shirts, the truth was I had collected from each ghetto, 40 ghetto kids. From each ghetto, you say Kalerwe, 40. Bwaise, 40. B14, 40. Ntinda ghetto, 40. I left Kampala with around 28 coasters, and I had a budget that was adding on 40 ghetto people from each region that had very bad ghetto kids. That's like the plan was to take more from Jinja, the plan was to take more from Iganga, the plan was to take more from Mbale. Now I'm going to be open to you so that you know exactly who Bebe Cool. And this was a single planned idea from Bebe Cool. What was my plan with these ghetto people? Because I had known that in the city center, all the threats, all the trouble was being done by the opposition taking advantage of these ghetto guys. They were clique at that time came up with the idea of intimidating President Museveni's people, but no one had known that that was the formula. But remember, always the president has always said this, that his voters are always intimidated. And he has always said the second statement that they cheat his votes. But because for us as Ugandans or as human beings, you sit back and say, hey, how can they intimidate a president's voter? Or how can they cheat a president of his votes? You can't. Atulimba yabba. So that's why most people were saying that NRM over Museveni abbo bululu, because no one can really believe unless if they see with their own eyes that president basobola mubbo bululu nti abayaya abo bali bagezi, and all these things njaba wa manya g'abantu abaleetera ekintu ekyo. Those who remember how Peter Sematimba lost the votes, the election of Kampala mayorship, you all know what happened. The opposition yakwata a box z'obululu ne setting up banamole ne bakanika obululu waggulu ku compound yani ya Sematimba. Kati Sematimba ye yali azze mu luzungu ayambadde gloves zibiki yamanyi biri legit. The people who work with on the side of government usually are so legit, but the people in the opposition are so shrewd. Kubanga bachimanyi nti tosobola convincing abantu. You can't convince people that it is the opposition that did. Always it is going to be the incumbent, the government that is pressing the people. So they take advantage of that and instead they press the people. Best example, the recent video of a noob guy that you saw, who was intimidating a woman in a room for sex. Okay? So we will get to that. So that's how I came up with a plan and said, oh, I need to take away these guys so that when Lukwago leaves his home, he comes in the city, he looks for these guys to give them the money to do the trouble. He won't find them. That was the first game. So I called I had about 48 presidents of different ghettos. We met in Chiwatule. I used Cobra to reach them. We met in Chiwatule, we discussed. I was paying each of the ghetto presidents 200,000 per day. 200,000 per day. But each of the ghetto kid was getting 50K per day for those first 3 weeks we worked. Each of them was being paid emitwale etano. Buli mwana wa ghetto gwe natwala mu bus yali afuna emitwale etano. Nga president waabwe eyabawandika n'abaleeta mu costas ezebbiri yali afuna emitwale 2 buli lunaku. Omukyala eyali ansasula sente ezo ku secretariat bali bamuyita Mama Namayanja, who of course is one of the reasons why Buganda today did so well. I took this plan to Honorable Namayanja and gave it to him. When I gave it to him, he said this plan is so good, but it is not going to be accepted easily. At that time, she was the national treasurer. I think she was the national treasurer or something like that. So, first she had not accepted that idea because she didn't think I could execute it. Then on the second last day before the campaigns began, she called me and said, come. We met at plot 2, there is a restaurant there, and is it plot 4, something like that, in Nakasero. She asked me, Bebe Cool, Nambuza, can you execute that idea? I told her, yes, I will, I can, because it's me who came up with the idea. I need to remove the ghetto guys. Once I remove them, there won't be intimidation. Secondly, it was a security issue. Because you remember that time, these ghetto kids were not scared of police. Bakwatanga amayinja ne balumba police straight. Ng'omusirikale ayina mundu, ng'omwana wa ghetto akutte jinja. And then at that time, Chagulanyi's group, that's why they were using camera. Because they wanted a photo of a gun on the other side and a stone on this side. That was a very damning photo internationally. So that was also another way to encourage the Western world to get involved in a country's politics. When you see a man with a gun shooting a guy with a stone. So for me, immediately I knew the game plan. And remember, in Chagulanyi's team, I can't fail to have people there. Guys, twakula fena obuguwa tebugwayo. Buli muntu akaluka paka n'okaluka n'omanya nti I get my information here and I will use it like this. And I also know, that's why you see most of the times tugoba abantu mu cliques zaffe. gagamera nokera ku machango bagobye omuntu nsobola okuteekawo reason nti nagobye omuntu nandisrespectinga naye nga nze nkimanyi yabadde apassinga information ewa Joseph ewa Chameleon yabadde apassinga information ewa Bobi so ne wa Bobi nga waliyo omuntu abantu baffe naffe betukozesa. So I came up with that plan. Honorable Namayanja decided to support it. It was a very expensive idea, but it was the perfect idea. So I had two types of people. I had the ghetto team, and then I called my friend, he's called Cloud. I told him, Cloud, I need all the media personalities that are strong, the best, with the best platforms. So when we started to go at that time into Bonga Nawe, I had 6 coasters. Each coaster had 40 media personalities. 40 media personalities. 40 times 6. I had them. I was paying each of them, each media personality was being paid 150,000 per day. Per day. 150,000 per day, 50,000 kuliko okusula, because I gave them a plan. I told them, look, you're going to use 20,000 to sleep. So bwembeera babiri mufune room emu eya 40 oba room emu eya 50, 25 you save. So when you spend 20 on accommodation of 25, the other 25 is breakfast ya 5,000, lunch ya 10k, dinner ya 10k. So you spend 50k in a day and you save 100,000. For 3 months when you're saving 100,000, but I told them that the most important thing where I wanted the media personalities to go on that campaign during the COVID was Ugandans had been misled when it comes to information about Uganda. But now Uganda bali misled nnyo nga tebamanyi Uganda. Kiche kyaleetera okubeera nga bali tebamanyi Uganda. Kyali kimu nga bannamawulire tebamanyi, tebatambulangako mu Uganda, tebavisitanga. Omunnamawulire amanyi Kampala na waabwe gye bamuzaala. Ne bwe muge president akanya kwogera ku nguudo, president akanya kwogera ku ddaamu, president akanya kwogera ku development, model farms biki, tebabimanyi because tebatambulangako. Kati ekyo nakyo ne ngamba ngenda kigatta, so nagatta ebintu bibiri. Ne ngamba njagala ntambuze bannamawulire ku campaign trail balabe kitubeera twogerako why we support Museveni. Kubanga batuufu okuwakana, omanyi waliwo wakana, waliwo support wogana ekintu kubanga nawe tokirabangako. So nengamba abana bagayi just tebalabangako, naye opportunity eno bwe gyemyezi 3 okutambula Uganda yonna omuntu akyuka obwongo. These are some of the words I gave Honorable Namayanja. Nemugamba Honorable Namayanja, NRM ina weakness erimu ku information flow. The party has done a very good job. Yes, the party has erina ebikyamu ebimu nga corruption eziriyo, abantu abamu abatakoze bebalina okukola. Naye ate NRM party ekoze ebintu bingi nnyo ebirungi. Naye ate tebyogerwako. Lwaki? Lwakubanga twateekawo bridge nti tewaliwo basobola byogerako kuba tebabimanyi. Omuntu n'abeera Kampala nga tamanyi nti Gulu is one of the cleanest cities in Uganda. Omuntu n'abeera Kampala n'atamanya nti Uganda erina ensozi n'ebikko ebirungi ennyo. Omuntu n'abeera Kampala n'atamanya nti factories zizimbibwa all over the country. Bakanyanga kuwulira, people are just hearing, hey, President Museveni keeps getting his votes in the villages. You call them the villages, but the man has developed those areas. There's water, there's electricity, there are roads, there are hospitals, there are schools at a certain level. They are not the best hospitals in the world, but they are hospitals that have saved people. They are not the best schools in the villages, but they are schools that have educated Ugandans like me. My friends, I went to school. My nursery school, I was in a school called Makonzi Boarding Primary School, which is in Kasanda, past Mubende. That's where I began my nursery in top class. So during that time, imagine when I saw my nursery, Makonzi, Kasanda. But I am the guy who's speaking to you all this information. in Gulu, the universities that are there. My lawyer wange ono, friend wange ono, mtok Ebo, Council Ebo. Amateka ya gamalira Lira. Amateka gola bago, and you're yet to see these young people. You're yet to see them. Huh? Mbale universities, those are places where people are concentrating on education. So katinga bantu babira we Museveni obululu akujja country yeta now. Yeah, he knew. The president is very clever. He knew that Fabali wano mu center tubera nyo muwalala, but the real development, most people wano mu center balowooza nti Uganda stops in Kampala here in Buganda. No. Uganda is a spread country within the borderline. So that's how I came up with the plan of getting all the ghetto guys to go with them, and all the media personalities to go with them. The ghetto guys, I was to remove them from the activity so that these guys come, they don't find them, so they don't have anyone to use. Remember them, they fear police. Okay, so if you take away these guys, then they don't have anyone to hire to face police. So I was solving a security issue. At the same time, I was solving an intimidation issue. But I was not going to explain to a layman. I can't give my plan. I keep my plan. All I say is, but these people like it when Bebe looks a fool. So I gave you the face of a fool to kneel down and give t-shirts. The t-shirts were very simple. NRM has t-shirts. President can print t-shirts. It was always good because the intimidation was telling people not to wear anything yellow. You remember cars were being beaten. So for me, I was giving out the t-shirts to re-encourage people to put on the yellow. But the actual reason was now these other two that I've explained to you. That was smart. But I didn't need to explain to a Ugandan that, oh, I'm moving with the ghetto guys, I'm kneeling down. You remember I knelt down. Let me tell you, in the first 14 days, Kyagulanyi was conversing about Bebe Cool on his rallies. I have that video in Fort Portal where he had done his rally, telling his people that when this Rasta comes here kneeling down, giving t-shirts, comes, chase him away. The topic was very simple. I needed his diversion. He's not at the same level with the president. No. He's at the same level with the Bebe Cools, the chameleons. He's a musician. He will never stop being a musician. That's why now all the people in the opposition are suffering. They are suffering because they refuse to accept the truth that they are dealing with an artist. They are not dealing with a politician. They are not dealing with a presidential material. No, they were dealing with an artist who is directly competing with his fellow artists. That's why some of the fans, his musical fans, come up and say, Bebe Cool Kyagulanyi yamuleka da. So it is a musical thing. Yamuleka. These are the same people who cannot ask this guy to reason politically or economically. But to them it is about Kyagulanyi yaleka Bobi Wine yaleka Bebe Cool. Bobi Wine yaleka chameleon. So in a nutshell, ne Bobi nga jali ayagala kumakinga sure nti akakasa nti abonna baleka nenga ate kabaka yamukola mulina bwenti because nze nali sina budde bwa kintu neki nali nina obudde bwa plani yange nga bwenjikola mujjeko abamawulire mujjeko abageto ate nga mumanyi mukodo. So at the end of the day alitasobola kusobola plani yange, but era God works in mysterious ways. Mu NRM twalinamu abantu abali bakola naye. We had so many people who are working with Kyagulanyi. How are they working with Kyagulanyi? They were working with Kyagulanyi because the more Kyagulanyi put on pressure on the president, the more the president released the budget. We even had people in the police force doing very bad things intentionally. We had members of the parliament from the opposition, or we had MP candidates paying police people to arrest them, to mishandle them as women, to tear. Don't you remember that time when they were tearing women's bras? What? You look at a policeman, you say, why is this policeman really mishandling a woman? Kumbe these MPs were paying a back door. These guys were getting 5 million. Remember, their salary is less. So when you're given 5-10 million to kuzoganya, it appears legit that the police is mishandling Ugandans. All these things were planned. As NRM people, I tell you, I knew several people who were working with this guy, but they were way too stronger that if I attacked them directly, I would be down by today. So I said, no, I will devise my best way to work with the president. And I know the president at that time could not understand me very well, even himself, because I did not explain to him this thing, because I explained it to only Honorable Namayanja. That's why at the end of that campaign, there was a meeting at State House with all musicians and the SEC members. And in that meeting, I raised my hand. Full Figure was there. All the artists were there. Kusasira who. I raised my hand to talk, but the president wasn't picking me. Remember, that was at the end of the campaign after the president had been announced and Asinze. The president kept on choosing anyone else, Full Figure would, but wasn't picking me. Until when the president said, Bebe could take our so mukono. What was disturbing me? Kumbe the president had been told that my idea was just to give out t-shirts and kneeling. It wasn't a mobilization tool. So I wanted to ashame 3 people who had told the president that my idea wasn't a mobilization tool. That is the day I was supposed to explain to the president for the first time what the giving out t-shirts and kneeling meant. Kati president we ansirisa nempulira mu meeting inga balimba president. So many things happened there. I got angry, and ladies and gentlemen, for the first time I'm going to tell you, I got up out of the president's meeting and I left State House. I will never forget. I knew that nabye nkoze chintu kubangezo mpisa ambi nayo obusungu bwali bunzitanga sobola gena maaso nga ntudde n'abantu nga balimba president nga ndaba bwenti nesituka nenzija wentebe nenfuluma nengenda. And remember, oyita mu mulyango gumu toyiswa kuyita eno president gyatudde era yandaba bwati nga nsituse kubanga yasooka kuŋŋamba weteka wansi omukono gwogenda kumanya ogenda kwogera ebintu bingi. Nenfuluma nali ntuuka ku Saya Queen. As I was arriving Saya Queen, ne bankubira essimu ne bambuuza oluwa ne mbagamba ndi Kampala. Bagamba badde bakweta ne mugamba it's okay. Era president yaddamu nankubira essimu after 1 month. But okunkubira essimu after that 1 month, I had spoken to General MK and I explained myself very well to General MK. The use of my mobilization tool, that is what they call mobilization. Mobilization, when you see us as musicians singing is not mobilization. I will come to that point. Singing is entertaining. It has a small element of mobilization because your fans will then trust the platform and the reasoning that you're there. Yes, but there is actual mobilization to actualize a vote. So, that was the plan that was 2026, I think. The one of, 2021. Yes, that was 2021. Okay? So, how did it fall down? They went and convinced the president because we were stopped 3.5 weeks in. So, a team of people at the secretariat went and convinced the president that, remember at that time, there were 2 things that were happening. Also, let me tell you this. Chagulanyi was doing, there were COVID guidelines at that time. The guidelines did not allow masses. So the Electoral Commission came up with saying that you can only gather 200 people. So Chagulanyi, I knew that he wasn't going to use 200 people. He knew that the president is scared of COVID because the president was always covered and wasn't getting close to people. He was at a distance. So I knew that this picture is going to be, if Kyagulanyi goes on the roads with these masses of people, and then the president stays in a tent with 200 people, the picture is automatically going to be misinterpreted as Museveni not having supporters. It was a very dangerous moment. Because imagine 3 months when Museveni is in tents of 200 people and Kyagulanyi every day has masses of people walking on the road. That would have convinced the international community, that would have psychologically twisted the mindset of every Ugandan that actually it is true Ugandans no longer support President Museveni. I saw it and I said I'm not allowing this. That's why the first group of people that I had were the ghetto kids, those ghetto gangsters. And then plus adding on the media, because I also said I have to take away the media so that it's not covered fully. Now I'm saying things because there's no need to they're no longer secrets. It's just to show you how we think out these things. Because most of you don't have an idea. You don't know that we sit down and plan. And we plan. Okay, you think we just move. So, I said, okay, now, buli wentuuka ku kyalo ng'oledde nina abaana ba ghetto bus nga 30. Okay? Kigenda kuwa abantu confidence nga tebambadde yellow. Ne tuyingira mu maduuka nga tugaba t-shirt za yellow, ne tuyingira in their homes nga tugaba t-shirt za yellow. They will feel safe, so they will come up. Remember, there was a game of intimidation. So that thing was taking away intimidation from cities. And people were now openly coming back to put on the yellow. So, my plan worked very well. Because every time you saw Kyagulanyi with his big trail of people, you saw Bebe with so many people on the streets. But President Museveni was in the serious meetings of the 200s. You get the game? So that's how it happens. Now, how did it go down? It went down when 3 people went and convinced the president in a meeting in Soroti that Bebe Kulu atulated the electoral commission egamba tusiga COVID. And the president, you know, President Museveni, when it comes to COVID, even up to now, to have a meeting with President Museveni, we are still going for COVID checkups. Up to today, President Museveni did not even think twice. He called off the movement. I made calls that day. I nearly ran mad. I said, how can I convince this? I talked to Namayanja. Namayanja fought in the meeting. Honorable Namayanja fought in that meeting to tell people that there is a better good in this idea than just what you're seeing here. Naye kumbe, what my format was doing, it was going to stop the big budgets that the president was going to release. Because by countering Kyagulanyi, then there is no pressure from the president or for the president. And without pressure on President Museveni, he never releases money. So nali musente z'abantu nga mwenzanyira. Naye ate at the end of the day, nga nebuuza nga ngamba neba n'abantu. Esente n'eggwanga lyaffe okwonooneka, because remember at the end of the day, we had a problem of mindset. Nga abantu bali mu kugenda convinced ddala nti no President Museveni talina buwagizi, nti Uganda mbi, nti Uganda bleedinga. Ekintu tekitandika okuyingira. Era nze abawagizi ba NUP abasinga sibanenya. Because babasigamu ekintu ekyo nti Uganda bleedinga. Naye mwe bwe mutunula mu COVID bantu bameka abaafa enjala. Ensi z'abazungu zonna ze mulaba abantu baafanga enjala, ng'oli talina wajja kawunga naye nga ffe wano ofuluma ku muti n'ojjayo omuyembe. Naye bakonvinsinga president nga nkirabira ddala. Bwe nva mu pule ne nzaayo abageto ne baddayo ku kkubo, abaana ati bo tebasobola kubeerera waawo. Bo balina okugenda okuzoganya okukola. Abasanga nze wano mbadde mbawa $5,000 naye kati we baddayo ku kkubo. It took only 2 days mwalaba amasasi mu Kampala, mwalaba entalo ku kkubo iganga yonna amayinja front. That is the day, that is the week gye mwalabanga abasirikale ne bakuba abantu amasasi emange wa Kiseka yonna, ng'olwo abaana bakomyewo babalemese. Abaana banegaya banange, abaana ba ghetto baakaaba amaziga. Do you know abaana banyumizanga ebintu buli night nga tumiitinga nga tumaze okulya biki, ng'abaana banyumiza bagamba manyi bwe tubba akasimu ukatwala ew'omukulu akasimu ka miliyoni 3-4, naye ng'omukulu akuwayo emitwalo 2, naye ssebo kati omunene otufunidde emitwalo 5 buli lunaku. Oba kitegeera bananga abaana baakaaba. I've never seen what I saw. Nenfuba nenjogera namayanja mukazi watunangamba Bebe sina kyakola. It has failed. Oba kitegeera nentika abaana nentika zibasi zonna abaana ne bakomawo e Kampala. Abaana olwakomawo e Kampala bwe bati ne baddayo ku kkubo ne busimu ne buvuga okuva ewa abantu nga bameeya Kyagulanyi abakozi baabwe ne bakomawo ku kkubo. 3 days later masasi mayinja buli kimu. That is why twatuuka n'okulonda n'ebya internet we byatandikirawo okuvaako. So nga ate internet eno singa nali proceedings ne trail yange y'abannamawulire, it means by the end of the media, by the end of the rallies on that campaign, media yonna yali badde side ya NRM, wali badde tewetaaga kujjako internet. Wali badde tewetaaga kubanga basojja bonna nali mbalina. Okuvira ddala ku websites, okudda ku Facebook, okudda buli aba Twitter bonna nali mbalina. But of course chenali nsinga okunyumirwa is I always wanted to stay in the dress code of a musician who wants to just sing and jump on stage, because that's what my enemies wanted or my competitors wanted. They wanted to always convince themselves that I think small. So what I did, I left them to think that I think small. Era abantu abo bakuba program eyo bankola bubi. Sometimes I look at that lady emphasizing ku kintu ekyo, and I'm very proud that finally I got an opportunity this time to execute the same program but a bit different. Era kino kye mwalabye ekyabayimbi ne bannamawulire just kwabadde kubulako ba ghetto. Now towards the beginning of this campaign I went to Mr. Damulira's, Afande Damulira's office. Nemugamba Afande Damulira, program yange ogijjukira yalina abaana ba ghetto tulina bajja mu city. Mwami Damulira ku luno n'angamba nti Bebe, this time you don't need to take them because we have built good structures in them, okay, and they are ready to work within their areas. Nemugamba, oh yeah, that is right. Why? Because before tewaliwo muntu yabazimamu structures, bali bakozesebwa bukozesebwa. Era that's why today you see nti this time move yange yali y'abannamawulire n'abayimbi bokka. So now you can connect the two. So bufighti buno bwaliwo wano mu beginning, simanyi abayimbi bajja, those were very petty issues. You are all just diverting, talking about what you did not have as an idea. So we ended up nga tuvuddemu eyo 2021 akalulu, and ebyo byonna ebyabaawo mwalaba ebya ending biki. So this time I devised the best way, because the best way this time was nalina okufinding engeri gye nsobola okufuna finances zange eziri independent from the secretariat. But I took the proposal to Honorable to the Secretary General. Yenyini najitwala wa Secretary General, but I think it didn't pass because the Secretary General said the budget was so high. I pleaded with the Secretariat Nembagamba to we meet the President. I defend my budget. Of course they had added in theirs, but my budget surely was very high. But to achieve 71% success, you need a budget. And you need to make sure that that budget is used where it is supposed to be used. Waliwo kugamba uga nti budget yino tujikuwadde naye okozese sente kyesina okukola. That's why we got the 71%. Because all of you abandaba, everyone andaba one, amanyi my contribution to this campaign this time. Everyone knows what I did. Tetwebaka kutulo. Kakati, how did it go down? This time, namanya nti we na relyinga ku already proposal yange bagiganye. Naye before taking the proposal, I came up with 2 plans. Nengamba nino kunonya sent, nino kunonya omuntu gwe nsobola okukola naye for at least 2 weeks paka president wanalaba effect ya idea yange nampita. Kwanga